So when you live in a surveillance state where there are haves and have-nots, and there are haves that have jobs and expect to be able to get their pension benefits, even though there might be significant municipal bonds that the people in the area are collateralized for in order for them to have their jobs and in order for them to get their benefits. Sometimes you encounter situations where you're trying to do something, and because they've surveilled you, you can hear, if you're like me, the communications that are using the surveillance equipment, including the cameras on trains and at train stations, to direct and intention efforts to try to contrive a situation and behaviorally condition you, or rather, compel a demonstration of the conditioning regime at work at the moment. I was on the train coming back from getting some food, and a man asked me if I had some food. Now, I had food, but by and large, you had to cook it in order to eat it. He, as I understood, wanted something immediately. I said, well, if you get off now, you could go down the street and get your own food. No, 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 do you have any food? Well, they got food right down the street. Go ahead and go down the street. Train door closes. He starts moving. Then he comes up. He asks me, and I said, "Well, you could have gotten your own food there. Wasn't trying to be a bitch, but I already knew. I heard them trigger him to ask me for food because on the train on the way there, I also heard them say, "Don't eat on the train. They fine you if you eat on the train." So I'd already heard them send out an infrasonic about how they're secretly finding people who are eating on the train. And then while I'm on the way back, some man asked me if I have something for him to eat. Am I going to be fined for giving him the food? Am I going to give him the food and then he's going to eat it on the train and then they're going to fine him? Right? The train moves. We come up to the next stop. The next stop, door opens. Some people go to get on, but the door starts closing right as a disabled person is getting on. So he has to open the door, and then a woman comes in, a stroller with two children in it. A man, a woman, a stroller with two children. Then the door goes to close again, but somebody has to come in, get inside the door to keep the door open so that it doesn't close on them. It's a disabled man in a wheelchair and a woman who's with him. They may be homeless. He has a sign as if he spent time panhandling. They get on the train, sit across from me. We're on the way. I can, again, understand what they're trying to do. And we get to the stop right in front of the hospital. Door doesn't open. And I hear what they say. We told you to give him the food. You wouldn't give him. You needed to acknowledge him. You mean I needed to acknowledge him? They need to get off here. They're in front of a hospital. The couple with the two children in the stroller were anticipating they were going to get off and go to the hospital. Stop. They did not open the door. They wouldn't open the door. They were trying to push the button to open the door. Then all of a sudden, the train just moves, goes to the next stop. Now, if we're talking about bonding war crimes, well, if they had gotten off, that would have been like the train arriving at the concentration camp to let them off, right? But I heard them. You needed to acknowledge him. You mean I needed to give him my food? And not just any food. The only fresh food I had to give him was a particular kind of fresh food, right? You wanted me to give him a red apple, didn't you? Old scheme, boys and girls. That shit already got busted by the DOJ. Just so you know. So we get to the next stop. Couple gets out, trying to get the train going the other way. Oh, that train pulls off. The train was at the stop as we were pulling up. But right as they get off and go to get on the train to go back to the stop they need to get on, damn, they just miss it. Train pulls off right in front of them. Then the guy next to me in the wheelchair pulls out a blade and shows it to the lady. Here, touch it. It's sharp. I heard. Finally, we get to the stop. I get off at the stop. And lo and behold, oh my God, from the time when I got on the train to when I got off the train, my tire is flat. In other words, again, bitch, we're bonding you the same way we have for years. We told you what to do, and you wouldn't do it, so we're knocking out your transport. Same damn shit I've been doing for over 10, 15 years. You wanted me to play a game, hustling a bunk bond, using things people actually needed. I heard him. I heard him the whole fucking time. Now, right now, I got up here. Department of Justice news releases. Just with 2020 Texas. Pretty much every month, somebody gets charged, an individual, with some fraud connected to COVID. But what I'm more interested in is the number of Medicare fraud busts that have happened concerning Texas. In 2020, $14 million kickback scheme concerning pharmacy owners. Texas physicians sentenced for multi-million-dollar Medicare fraud scheme. Gulf Coast healthcare fraud strike force expanded to include Eastern District of Texas. Well, last time I looked on here, there were also 2 medical facilities in Texas that had individuals that had been fined by the Department of Justice for Medicare fraud, including elder abuse. Those seniors in their Medicare were defrauded monetary amounts, while the individual culprits, by the way, were chastised. They had some very interesting named references, didn't they? One of them was a heart institute, a Texas medical facility dealing with heart health, fined for Medicare fraud. How many times? How many hospitals? How many fraud schemes in Texas, presumably having to do with manipulations of Medicare? It's just individual bust. Insurance. One-time deals here and there, but it's so friggin' pervasive. We're talking about an organized crime syndicate that is so comprehensive that literally every month they have to provide a new insurance policy. Every month, it seems. You gotta bust somebody for Medicare fraud at the DOJ? We're not even talking about the OIG here for Medicare or Health and Human Services. Department of Justice. Getting one-time hits in order to provide insurance for who? What's really going on in Texas, DOJ? That you have to hit a Medicare bust on a monthly friggin' basis. It's not about just Medicare fraud, is it? When are you guys going to get serious? You expect to be able to bust a lone preacher for a global bond scam that, if nothing else, is responsible for Ed Lee, Jeff Adachi, John McCain, Beau Biden, Elijah Cummings. 5 elected representatives of public office that were strategically murdered by a tong being run by cops and their friends in healthcare. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other people involved. You gotta have a lot of marshalling in order to effectuate the assassination of a mayor like that. You gotta have a lot going on in order to slowly murder a senator who was also a veteran and a former POW. It's not just cops and their friends in healthcare. But I don't see any bust of cops on here. I don't see any bust of anybody in law enforcement that had successfully been prosecuted after an appropriate internal affairs investigation. Nothing like that. Who are you insuring? Your insurance is canceled. You don't get to run this through the CIA and get them to cover your domestic ops so you can kick it back to who? Who? You got any more mergers that you're trying to put into somebody's romance overnight while I get spied on using public transportation